Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Someone You Should Know. For those that clicked in early and all are saying, "Well, where the heck are they?" Well, we're finally here. We had a couple of little glitches and a little bit of technical difficulty, but hey, we're here. This is KVGI Radio Live Without Limits, broadcasting producing from Michigan and broadcasting live from Frisco, Texas. And let's get right to it because I want to introduce somebody that I think is a human firecracker. And that's
Oh,
my guest, Susan Bernard. Susan, welcome to the show.
I am so delighted to be here, Stuart Sachs. Thank you. Thank you for helping me. Thank you to your technical audio producer and sound engineer, Monkey Butt, for helping me out. And thanks for keeping me on because it did take a little bit of a technical glitch. So I do
Yeah,
appreciate your help.
I even changed my glasses so to compliment you.
Yay. Look.
There you go. See, we red hot today.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, you are a very very special lady because you have a I think a God given talent that you have really manufactured, if you will, into a career. You do voiceovers, something I always wanted to do, and all from doing just radio voiceovers, being the guy that introduces the contestants on a game show, uh, or to doing the voices of animated characters in a movie. I think that would be fun. But I would love to do all those. You have.
I have done quite a few of those, and sometimes it's just background, which is known as Walla Walla, or Walla. You just hear the different, voices and things in the background, but it's not quite distinguishable. So, yeah, I've done quite a few things, union and non union work. I've done things that are local. I've done stuff that's been national. I've been involved in a few projects that have been international. So, yeah, you might not recognize that it's actually me because sometimes I use my own money voice, which is this voice. And sometimes I use a character voice or an accent or something a little bit different. But you can do it because I tell people all the time it's not really what you sound like, it's how you deliver the copy. So when you interpret the copy a certain way and you give it back a certain way, and you never know exactly what the director wants, so you have to come up with a couple of different things, and we'll get into that more later. But it's an opportunity for you to engage, to be playful every day, and I really, really do like my job a lot.
And I know a few people that do voiceover work, but in most cases they have a very limited repertoire. They have a nice easygoing, if you will, news broadcaster kind of a voice that's very engaging, and but it's limited in scope. You are all over the spectrum. I mean, you can do everything from a 6-year old to a 60-year old, and then dialects and all. And we are going to have some fun this morning because we're going to play around with a few of those dialects. But I guess the first question I need to throw out at you is, when did all of this start? Have you been doing this for a long time? Did you start like acting or whatever as a young child, and then it developed? Where did it all come from for Susan Bernard?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not even quite sure where it all came from myself, but I guess early on, I liked being in the spotlight as far as being able to help other people and entertain other people and make other people laugh.
Does that
So I
mean
knew,
class clown?
well, yes and no. I never really got in trouble. I never was like somebody that I got in trouble in second grade for talking too much. And that probably started it a little bit, but I always had a comment for something. And I always basically, I was curious by nature, but I think where it really started was um, I wasn't happy with just selling your basic lemonade. And what I would do is I would put on shows and be with people, and I would help create a big like talent show in the backyard. Or if I was playing with just a few of my friends, I would bring all the Barbie dolls and everything to life, the Ken dolls, and I would make voices for them. And I would, you know, be whatever scenarios were involved, whether it was like in the kitchen or in a schoolroom or whatever. So there was always something entertaining and fabulous going on. And I knew when somebody asked me when I was on TV at a very young age, my folks were on TV for something and they asked, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I just said famous. And I'm still not famous. I mean, I'm famous in my own mind, but
Right, right.
yeah, entertaining is probably more the word and everything. And as I went on a little bit later, just to tell you quickly, I did study communications at Texas Tech University, and I achieved my degree from them in radio, television, film, broadcast. So I am a broadcast journalist by trade, and I've been in radio off and on over the years for the past 34 years. And basically, I was involved in high school and junior high in speech, debate, drama, things like that. So yeah, definitely trying to get the word out about whatever. Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun.
So did you go into the field of journalism upon graduation from college with the degree?
I tried to become a sportscaster, and because I'm a girl, I was told a couple of things. I was told I wasn't pretty enough to be in front of the camera, and I kept telling them, but my mom thinks I'm gorgeous, right? You know, whose mother doesn't think their child's beautiful? And then excuse me. Then I went into trying to figure out why else I was not being allowed to be on TV or radio. They told me that men don't want to hear about sports from a woman. And if you do sports, it needs to be women's sports. And I was like, no, I can call color on basketball, football, baseball, hockey, tennis. You know, I can do a variety of different things, but because I'm a woman, I'm not what you would call a tripod. That's what I call it. I wasn't allowed to hit that, you know, area. And I really wasn't interested as much in women's sports as I was in men's sports, because there's nothing more exciting than football, right? So
Right.
anyway, American football anyway. But all sports, a lot of the sports are based off of the same type of gridiron or look on the field. There's forwards, there's guards, there's two goals, there's a point system. You know, everything kind of looks the same. Hockey and basketball are very much the same. You've got the goals, and, you know, a lot of the terms are somewhat the same too. So anyway, I thought I could do this, and I started to get pretty good, but because I'm a female, nobody really wanted to hear me much. And I didn't want to do weather. I'm not a weather girl. So yeah.
Well, now, tell the truth. Did you just want to get into the locker rooms?
Totally, right? Yeah, that was one of the issues that they brought up as well. They go, "Are you comfortable going into a locker room?" And I go, "Oh, heck yeah! I think you know, I've seen some stuff, but you know, I wasn't concerned about that. I really wanted to either get to the story, enlighten the moment. I wanted to either educate people or even to entertain. I tried everything from stand-up comedy, improv. I've done a lot of different things, and I've even been on a couple of different game shows. And bottom line, it's really, I like spotlighting things for other people. And although I am noticeable with the hair and everything, I do think that it's important to bring other people's story to life, because everybody who you ever come in contact with, there's a big story behind that person. It's something that makes them totally individual. And that's what I'm innately curious about.
You know, there are even talk show hosts that try to make a career out of doing just that too. You know,
Yeah.
it is, you know, the story is one thing, and that's what I enjoy doing. But it's the backstory that you draw out that really makes that interview, you know, what it is. And how do you feel personally, knowing that way back at the beginning of your career, you wanted to go into sportscasting? You have the knowledge, you have the ability, you have the talent to do it, but because you were a woman, you were perceived as not being right for that job. And then all of a sudden, fast forward 10 years, maybe, because you said you started 30 some years ago, and all of a sudden there's women that are doing all kinds of coverage of sports and every aspect of it too. In fact, I would venture to say that there's probably, between men and women's sports, probably almost an equal number of female sportscasters as there are male. You know, even play-by-play calling now.
I think it's great that women have finally been invited to the table. You don't see them do as much yet still. And maybe there is a little bit of a disparity between having a woman talk about sports as much, but there, a lady from just up the road, Phyllis George, who recently passed away, was a great ambassador for sports. And that was one of the things that honestly I knew probably wouldn't transition very well, because I'm not a cute little petite blonde. And although she's not a petite blonde, she had like auburn color hair, and she definitely, made commentary, very minor commentary about different sports. She was very well respected because she had the look of what they were going for. And it is nice to see women invited to be able to talk more about, professional sports now. So it is crucial. Things have changed. I was a little bit before my time for sure, but I enjoy hearing people's take on it. And I also think that, if men and women sometimes on a Sunday afternoon or Saturday will watch either college or pro sports, whatever, Saturday, Sunday, and they're going to be really interested in what's going on, and men will be like, okay, get out of here, it's part of the man cave situation. But if they invite their woman and they can explain the sport to them, a lot of women will get very much charged up about that particular team, their mascot, the colors, the cheerleaders, the support side of the team, and really look to see if the team is more successful offensively, defensively, what a defense coordinator does, what a running back does as opposed to a cornerback or as opposed to a safety, et cetera. And if you engage with a woman about the games, there's more likely of a chance that you can share it together and it could be something special. So yeah.
I hear what you're saying, because I've been in a room full of men and women watching a football game when all of a sudden somebody's called, for a personal foul, and a woman will jump up and say, "Personal foul? Are you kidding me? That was a clean hit." And the women get as passionate, if not even more passionate than the men sometimes today. But it
Totally.
perceived that way 20, 30, 40 years ago.
And you see that a lot in hockey, that there's a lot of women hockey fans, but women sometimes don't understand on the gridiron, what they're seeing. And for me, where I have a lot of difficulty is zone defense in basketball. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even see that. So even though I can call it color, and be able to tell exactly what's going on, it's an interesting kind of, evolution to the game. There's like walking. So you used to always get called for either double dribbling or walking or whatever. Now people can take 20 steps. They're hardly ever called en route to the basket. So things change. I'm looking forward to more change. And actually, I'm looking forward, and I'll tell you a little secret. I don't know yet for sure, and I can't exactly tell you the name of the team, but there's a good chance that I might be an announcer for a roller derby team. So I got my fingers crossed for that.
I used to watch roller derby when I was a kid, and I mean, just like everybody in baseball, when we were kids, everybody went, rooted for the New York Yankees or so. I was a fan of the Bay Area Bombers roller derby team, and I used to watch it like every Saturday. And I'd sit there in a chair, and I'd be as animated as anybody. But taking it a step further, are you seeing today that as more professional teams, more professional women's teams, especially too, that as these coaches are retiring from coaching and everything, they are going into the broadcast booth, like a lot of the professional players in football, basketball, and all. They see that next step in their career is going from the playing field or the court to the broadcast booth, and so that's elevated the game. We certainly have seen that in tennis and the WNBA.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's so true. Yes.
Did you ever play on a roller derby team?
No, never played on a roller derby team, but I was a big roller skater as a kid. Some of the sports, like I had no coordination in order to play basketball. I was the one that was always getting called for double dribbling. I wanted to get to the basketball as fast to the hoop as fast as possible. And I never could coordinate it enough and I wanted to hog the ball. I felt like I was confident enough to go down at least half court and put it in, but you have to be a team player. And on that sport, not so good. Now I played soccer. I played softball, which is obviously the female version of baseball, right?
Right.
I tried golf until I started to develop a little bit. And when I did, I found that it probably was a little bit difficult to swing the golf club. I've played a lot of different sports and I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't call myself a jock by any means. And I definitely wouldn't call myself very, very great at any one of these particular sports. I played dodgeball as a kid. I loved it. I played kickball. I played a lot of different things. I just played. And that kind of shows my love for sports just in general. I grew up in a family that appreciated sports, and we weren't, my brother was more athletic than I was. He was in track and he did all the stuff. He did hurdles, he did the sprint, he did the, 440. He did a lot of different things. And I never was a runner, but I can appreciate sports from all different levels.
And that fact, just that fact alone, surprises me that there wasn't someone out there at the start of your career that says, "Wait a minute, this young lady knows a lot about a lot of sports. She's got the talent, she's got the voice, she's got and she could be a groundbreaker. And let's get her into sports interviewing, whether it's male or female and all." And they didn't recognize it. Somebody, to use a quote, missed the ball on that one.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. And you know what? And just like in today's world, it sometimes it takes a long time to see a change. And then when it happens almost instantaneously.
Right.
But I'm
Right.
grateful that it sometimes only takes one or two. Sometimes it takes a little while. Sometimes it takes a lot, of people involved or whatever. But basically, yeah. And I wasn't as confident about my skill back then as I am today. And so really, I think it's through experience, it's through trial and error. And I got to say this too, because I said it the other day during a presentation, it takes a lot to fail and to get up and to do it again, because in order to be a success, you have to fail several times to know what you're doing. So I encourage failure. I really do. I've fallen on my face many a times. I've had some difficulty, but man, I'm pretty tenacious. I keep getting up and keep going.
And I agree with you, because I think sometimes failure is the foundation for success.
Indeed.
When you take that, you once you fail, you know how to avoid doing it again, and that helps to build on success. And that's true no matter what we're doing, whether you have a career in business or broadcasting or sports or whatever. A professional ball player, if he fails, he's going to know what it was like to fail, and he's going to do everything in his power to make sure he doesn't make that same mistake again on the field or the court.
And to speak to that as well, I might say
Yeah.
that for me, maybe that's why I am a slow learner. I absorb it more and I'm slower to the table sometimes to learn things, but I have repeated some errors, not major, guffaws, missteps or faux pas and what's going on or whatever. Although I've had my share, I've opened up my mouth and put in my foot many a time, but, and I've got a pretty big mouth, I guess, but I mean, but for me, sometimes I have to repeat the same mistake in order to really learn from it. So there's definitely not perfection in everything that I do. There's progress for sure, but not perfection. And I think that's kind of what I bring to the table. It's a real thing, but the beauty of my job is that I get to be somebody different and something different every day and be playful. And so that's kind of the deal. That's what's going on.
And you also had another little advantage around sports, because you grew up with the son of one of my all-time heroes. And all. I've been a fan of Mike Ditka ever since he played ball and then coached the Chicago Bears, which has always been my team. And you grew up with his son.
I did. Mike Ditka and Mark Ditka, Mike's son, and I went to high school together. And I'm like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes max, maybe 20 if I catch every red light. But I went to school. I was born and raised in Dallas, and I grew up in North Dallas. So I went to Richardson Schools, which is a subdivision of Dallas, just a little step over in North Dallas, fashionable North Dallas. And
Yes. Just east of 75.
Exactly. And I went to high school with Mark Ditka, and Mike Ditka was the father, and he was bigger than life. And his affiliation, not only with the Cowboys and everything else, but I mean, he was a big guy. And when if you were ever over at the Ditka home, if he didn't like something or something was going on, he would make himself pretty well known. And it was pretty imposing, pretty intimidating to hear from Mr. Ditka, although he was a nice guy, don't get me wrong, but I would not want to be a person that would not be on his good side.
This, I,
Wouldn't like
I
that.
had an opportunity when I was in college, and I studied broadcasting in college also. And I worked for a television station in Indianapolis for the summer. And we used to do the promos for professional wrestling. And this goes back to the days of Dick the Bruiser and Gene Kaniski and some of these. And when
Andre the Giant. Yeah.
yes, when they would get into the studio, they would get the cue, and then the voice would come out and everything. I'm going to rip off his arm and shove it down his throat. And as soon as they'd say, "Okay, cut," that's a take. They go sit and they talk about investments. So you got a good tip on an investment or something. I mean, it was hard to separate the on camera person from the off camera person, and I understand Ditka was very much the same way.
Yes, very much so. I mean, I didn't see him on TV as much. I am hometown girl and support all my hometown teams, win or lose, the Rangers, the Cowboys, the Mavs, even the minor league teams. Up here, Frisco Rough Riders,
Rough Riders.
the Allen Americans, the hockey team, the Legends, the basketball team, the Plano. Excuse me, not Plano. It's McKinney. Is it McKinney Legends? God, I should know that. But
Well, they call them the Texas Legends, and they
Legends.
are at the Comerica Stadium in Frisco.
So yeah, soccer, anything sports related. And that's an awesome way, by the way, to get the word out about, your company or whatever. I can promote those individual teams. I can promote the individual sponsors of the teams or whatever, but really that's a great way that if you're in business for something, to get your name out there, to, support a local team. Also, if you have season tickets, you can give them to other people as, swag or, complimentary stuff, or invite people to a game or a client or whatever. It's a great, I love sports. It's a great way to do business. It is.
And just to put things in perspective, when people want to call up their favorite teams to get tickets or to get tickets to box office, it may be your voice that they hear right off the bat when they call, because I guess it's fortunately for you and unfortunately for most of the public that we have a hard time talking to human beings anymore, because when you call a number, you generally do get a recording, and you have to go through the prompts in order to get to the place that you want to be. That's just the fact of life now, and but that may be Susan Bernard's voice that you hear.
You might be hearing me. You just might, if you
Because
call.
you do. What so what are some tell us what are some of the favorite voiceover projects that you've done?
I would say, here's the thing. I mentioned before that I had done a presentation this last week, and it's true. I definitely, without a doubt, no question about it, I definitely audition more than I get jobs. I definitely book a lot off of my auditions, off of what people hear. And I do a lot of custom auditions because people don't really know what a voiceover artist, voiceover actor, voiceover talent does. And just to kind of clarify, voiceover, some people just call us voiceoverists now. And what a voiceover person does is frequently you'll hear something, but you won't see their face. Kind of buys into the fact that, maybe that's why they told me, well, you're not so pretty, but whatever. So a voice talent is somebody that might be able to do a variety of different things: singing, doing jingles, doing things that you might not normally expect in everyday conversation or something that you might hear. A voice actor might play a certain part, might be part of a video game or an anime or a manga or a cartoon.
Like
So
Tom
that's
Hanks says Woody in Toy Story or
exactly.
something.
And why are they getting all the good jobs? No, just kidding. So
Yeah,
and then there's
yeah. Hey, what about me?
exactly, because everybody is, in my opinion, and in my industry, everybody, if you can follow direction, if you can bring a little bit of a difference to the take, everybody is welcome to the table. everybody, no matter what your age, no matter what your gender, no matter what your sexuality, no matter what ethnicity, no matter what social level you are, no matter what, you are welcome if you can bring something a little bit different and if you can follow directions. So it's kind of an interesting situation, but yeah, I again, I enjoy it very much. And some of my favorite projects and favorite things have been working internally with corporate communications. I've done some training films, and you'll hear my voice instructing people on how to, be a better employee, how to do things a certain way. That's been enjoyable as much as it has been that I've been used on some transportation systems to please remind people not to leave their items behind. It's fun. It depends on who you're working with. It can be a real drag if you work with people that are just like not very fun. But that's why I do the job that I do, so that I can have fun, make people laugh occasionally, and just make a difference. So yeah, there's a lot of
It's
different ones. And just let me tell you real fast too, I'm
yeah.
getting ready to change my website a little bit and rebrand. But if you go onto my website, you'll find a lot of different examples of what you're talking about, instead of me
Yeah, I
just
was
kind of
just
going.
going to say it's SusanBernardVO.com.
That's right.
And right on the main page, you've got some little buttons there, and if you push some of those buttons, it'll give you a sample of the different inflections and dialects and voices that you will use in a variety of different ways, whether it is sports or just a a I guess what I would call a calm announcement, or something like you're trying to punch a radio station. The listen to the hits on K102, that kind of thing. It really gives you an idea of what one individual can do with their voice, so that somebody would say, man, they've got the greatest voice talent on that channel. And you realize it's one person with multiple voices. It's not multiple people. Yeah. And now what we were talking about a little bit, I mentioned Tom Hanks. I don't know why they always have to take all the really successful people and give them the jobs doing voiceovers in these animated features, when there's so many other talented voices out there that would be just right for doing that. If somebody says, well, I think I got a pretty good voice and I'd like to maybe audition to see if I could get a part in an animated play or something, is there places that people can go? Are there audition calls that are put out to get voices? How does the process work if somebody wanted to break into that industry?
Well, there's a variety of different ways. And I'm glad you asked that, because a lot of people come to me frequently and they say, I've been told I've got a really great voice and I want to get in this. Well, just like anything else, you need to have a little bit of training. And the key thing here, as far as I'm concerned, is, it's the personal relationships that you share with people and what you develop and you build. And obviously, if the reason, and I'll tell you why people that are famous, like Matthew McConaughey as the spokesman for Lincoln Navigator or Lincoln or whatever, or Tom Hanks' voice might be used for something, is because if you use somebody else like Frank Baumenhauer for Lincoln, people don't know that that's Frank Baumenhauer. They might just go, okay, that's great. But when you hear Matthew McConaughey, because his voice is so iconic, or Tom Hanks, then you go, oh, and you associate that brand with that individual, and you think to yourself, okay, then I know that, I'm familiar with it, I like that person, and I want to use that product. So there's the reason why they give that to other people. Although there is an interesting thing called union and non-union stuff. And Texas is a right to work state, so I don't have to be part of the union, of the SAG-AFTRA union, which is Society of Actors Guild, and then the SAG-AFTRA, the AFTRA. I don't remember right now what that means, but I'm not part of the union, obviously, and this might be the demise of it. But anyway, what I try and do is I provide just as much as somebody else can do. And it's interesting because union people are very much pro-union. And when the two unions combined recently, it was for the need of having better benefits, being able to do things. But anyway, related back to the way to get into the industry is, take an improv class, take an acting class, belong to certain organizations and groups, belonging to like the Dallas Producers Association, joining a group like backstage.com that filters out and disseminates all the auditions locally. And some of them you have to be pretty skilled. They'll send something out and say, I need somebody that knows what they're doing when it comes to not just being camera or crew people, but I need somebody that can be the lead or the principal actress in this particular scene, or they're doing an independent movie and they need people or whatever. So you can gain your chops, your acting skills a little bit better, and you can gain more skill by doing more, or you can go to school like we did, formally speaking, or occasionally there's different classes around. But please, my big implore to everybody, my big warning is, please be careful of who you're taking and who you're taking a class from and who you're giving your money to. Because although I help people, I can give direction, I can help instruct, I can be a great mentor to somebody. I typically don't say that I'm a casting director, although I do help other people. If a client comes to me and says, I need another voice, or I need a guy that can do this, I have names of men that have been able to do it and that are in the industry. But if you want experience, you start off slow. Yeah, you talk to Stuart Sachs about it. Yeah. And you find out exactly. You find out what's going on, or you find somebody that does what you do. Like if you're interested in the sound of this show, contact the sound producer, the audio director, the guy
Monkey
that's in
butt.
charge. Yeah, Monkey Butt, and find out from him. Can he help you? Does he do demos? Does he record people? Does he, help sweeten the noise? How did he get involved in it? There used to be broadcasting companies around the world or around the United States or whatever, and you'd hear about, the broadcasting company and you'd go take classes. So it just depends. Just make sure you're not being promised that if you pay somebody $1,000, $2,000, that you're going to have 5 lessons and then you're going to be given a demo. And the reason why you don't want that is, as much as you're chomping at the bit to get a demo, after only 5 classes, you're going to be sorry 5 weeks later that you don't have more experience, and you've just wasted your money. And people in the industry, it's a very tight knit, close community in the respect that we know each other. And if they hear a name that they don't like, or you've done something that you shouldn't have done, they have a tendency not to want to use you. So you got to be careful. You got to be just real careful.
So it is kind of that old adage that sometimes it's not so much what you know, but it's who you know. And that if
Correct.
you interact with other people that are doing it, then you have a good chance that they may say, you know what, I know somebody that might be perfect for that voice.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So speaking of that voice, I want to have a little bit of fun. And you have a little script there that you would use for when people call up and welcoming and say, and we always hear that phrase about the menu has changed. I want you to present that script that you have, and just maybe start with the normal Susan Bernard voice that you would use. And then I'm going to just throw out an accent, and I'm going to have you do it with a different accent. Okay?
That would be great. And I'll see
Okay.
what I can do. The first one is me. I'd probably say something like, and a lot of times you're given a script. A lot of times you're not, but a lot of times you are. So I would probably say something like, hi, welcome to, let me see. We don't,
take 2.
Hi, thank you for calling and welcome to the sound voice of Ann Taylor Loft. We are experiencing a high volume of calls right now, so if you'll please hold for the next available customer assistant, someone will be right with you. And, something along those lines. So that's my money voice. That's my natural money voice, which is what they call it. No effect on it or anything like that. And given a script, and then you read something again.
All right, now let's do the same thing, and you're a voice of that same Ann Taylor store in Southern Georgia.
Well, hi, y'all. Thank y'all for calling. Bless your little hearts for listening in to us. But we are expecting a lot of people to be touching us today. And we just want to let y'all know that tons of us are calling. So if you'll just hang on just a sweet second. Y'all need some iced tea? Well, if y'all do, then just let me know. That it's kind of a character kind of thing. But yeah, I'll do that.
All right, how about Ann Taylor in London?
All right, Ann Taylor in London. Well, thank you for calling us. Good afternoon. We appreciate your time and your trouble in calling us. We would like for you to just approximately wait a few moments until the next person can be with you today. Thank you so much.
How about Ann Taylor in Paris?
Well, Antela in Paris is bonjour, mon ami. It is something that I want to say to you that you might have to wait for just one moment, and you will have some croissant and some wine with us, and perhaps some fabulous pastries. But if you wait for just one moment more, we will be right with you.
Ann Taylor in Malibu, California.
Like totally, you've reached like the Ann Taylor line, and I am like so sure. Like you want to talk to us, and it is like fabulous that you called because, darling, it's totes adorbs. I know you're gonna like what we have to offer, so please just come back and like hang out with us because it's totally cool, right?
Ann Taylor on Fifth Avenue in New York.
And Taylor on New York and Boulevard. If you're up here near Broadway, I gotta tell you something, darling. It's gonna be absolutely fabulous. We've got some fantastic looks. You know, you want to hang on. You want to. How's your mother, by the way? Have you been talking to your mother? If you haven't called her, you need to talk to your mother. She's been wanting to talk to you. And don't let her sit there in the dark. Just call her. And so, by the way, if you want to get your mother something great for Mother's Day, you hang on, you talk to us, we talk about it, the Spilkus and the Genectazoids, and you're fabulous. You're absolutely fabulous, darling.
And how about Ann Taylor in Midland, Texas?
Well, Midland, Texas is kind of like this. They kind of talk fast, but they kind of talk like they don't really like know all that there is to know. And they're universal, they're cosmopolitan, and they got those big old oil derricks in the backyard. But I just want you to know, I need to go check on some of the horses and some on some of the cattle out there. But if you just hold on for just a second, Ann Taylor will get you the bandana, we'll get you some cowboy boots. And girlfriends, we got you going on like nobody's business.
That's fat. My sides hurt right now.
So do mine.
Now,
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
so let's. If someone wanted to do multiple voices on one commercial or something, would you do that, or do they generally try to bring two different voices in? In other words, let's say, for example, I'm doing some kind of a commercial or a voiceover for a grandmother talking to her granddaughter. Would they have a tendency to say, well, let's bring in two different talents, or someone like yourself who can do both voices? Would they do both of those voices and then just edit it together?
It depends on the client. It depends on how much money they have. Typically, if you're doing something animation related, or video game, you need to have three voices. Three. That's what they hire you for. And you need to be able to provide those voices for that character or whatever. Now, if it is a business, if you've been directed towards something and maybe you got the job because of your character ability, or your accent ability, they want to hear that. And so typically, because the sound engineer, the unseen guy, is probably the most important part of this picture. If you've got a good sound engineer guy and they give you the script and they line it out A, B, meaning each character is the mom, the grandmother is the A, and the child is the B. And let's say C, there's a dog or something else involved. They will do those lines, all of the A lines at once as the grandmother, then B, all the child lines at once, and then C, all the dog lines at once, so that you're not in your mind. It's hard to skip pretty fast in between to just be like that. But like what I just did, I have to kind of ramp up to what's going on. I shared with you a little bit of the pretext, a little bit of the pre-roll, what would get me into the character to make me sound more like that. And it's a visual and auditory reminder that helps me get to where that character is. So in answer to your question, it really depends on the situation, and it depends on how great your audio guy is and whoever's directing you of what they need exactly for that particular character. So if it was grandma, it would all be all old and slow and feeble or whatever comes to mind to equate yourself to a grandmotherly role. And that would be like, darling, can you get me a cup of coffee? And even though a grandmother to me would probably speak even slower than that, if you take that much time, if you go, darling, can you get me? Nobody wants to wait that long. So you kind of
Click,
have
click,
to
click, click, click.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's that. Then if you do the little girl, they tell you also whenever you do a character voice, you should be able to do bodily noises like a sneeze in that character or in that voice. So if there's a little imperfection, a little giggle or laugh, I was going to say gaff, a giggle or a laugh, then that's great too, you know, to provide the little girl with, Grandma, I don't think that I can get you coffee today, you know, whatever. So you know, whatever it is, and then the dog's like, yeah, well, you know, it's time for some coffee, and it's you need some more. You need to move along, Grandma. You know, whatever is going on, you know, because dogs don't talk, so it's what you think a dog might sound like. It just really, you get your individual lines and you do it, and if the people that are paying your client has a lot of money, then maybe they will pull in 3 different character people to do the different voices. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So anyway.
So yeah, so basically you are acting without the presence of a camera. You are putting yourself into that role and taking on that role. Susan, the time flies, and I have made up my mind that this was not anything we could accomplish in one session. So I'd love to invite you back to do another show sometime down the road. If you're up for it, I'd love to, because I'd like to know a little bit more about how you set up your own studio, because you can travel to wherever they need you, but you also have your own in-home studio to do all of your recording, and there's so many other aspects. So will you come back again sometime?
I would love to come back, and if you need help with anything, always happy to help. Always happy to be there for you. But I've loved it, and thank you so much for having me and let me talk about myself. I mean, I hardly get to do that, but I really do appreciate it. I really do.
Well, I don't know who it was, but somebody quoted you as being a walking exclamation mark, and I think that's a perfect phrase. And I thank you, Susan Bernard, SusanBernardVO.com. Go visit her site. If you want to get in touch with her, you can send her an email, and that'll do it for another session of Someone You Should Know. And I thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, where's Monkey Butt? So,
He's probably letting us have our full hour and then coming back.
Oh, so, well,